The end doesn't arrive with the villain's master plan. It doesn't come with a final act of betrayal or a desperate last stand. It arrives quietly, without ceremony, through screams, through signals, through the breath between heartbeats. And by the time anyone realizes what's happened, it's already too late. Tom Taylor and Trevor Hairsine's DCeased isn't just a superhero horror story, it's DC's answer to The Walking Dead. A slow, inevitable march towards extinction where capes don't make you immune and legacies can't save you. This is a book that dares to ask what truly remains when even gods are brought to their knees. It strips away the mythology, burns the iconography, and leaves us not with hope, but with people who keep going anyway. This is how the world ends, not with a bang, but with grief, silence, and the stubborn will to stand back up. This is DCeased, DC's Walking Dead. Before we jump in, just a quick reminder to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on daily shorts and longer deep dives like this one. It begins, as all great tragedies do, with a victory. The Justice League defeats Darkseid, the Tyrant retreats, and Earth is safe. Or so they believe, but Darkseid didn't come to conquer, he came for Cyborg. Within Victor Stone lies a fragment of the anti-life equation, and with DCeased's help, Darkseid attempts to force it into reality using a mother box and the presence of the Black Racer. But tampering with death carries consequences, and the result is an equation that twists more than just logic. It corrupts everything. The virus infects Darkseid himself. A god breaks, he tears the Black Racer apart with his bare hands. DCeased watches in horror as Darkseid, consumed by madness, throws himself into the core of Apocalypse and detonates it. Cyborg, now carrying the living equation, is boom-tubed back to Earth and connects directly to the internet, and so the infection spreads. Every screen becomes a carrier, every connected device a gateway to death. For you see, the virus is a digital one, and the world doesn't fall to war, it falls to Wi-Fi. Superman figures it out fast. He saves Lois, he saves John, and he even manages to save Damian Wayne before the virus can reach them. But in Gotham, Batman isn't so lucky. Bruce has already isolated the virus, tracked its spread, and built firewalls into every system in the Batcave. He sees it coming, but he's already too late. By the time he understands what's happening, his sons are gone. Nightwing and Tim Drake are infected, and Bruce, fighting to protect Alfred, is forced to take them down. He doesn't hold back because he can't, but in the chaos, Nightwing bites him and the infection sets in. Bruce knows there's no cure, so he does what he's always done. He buys time. He seals himself inside a modified version of Mr. Freeze's cryosuit, slowing the spread just long enough to make contact. He calls Superman, warns him, tells him the virus spreads through screens, that everything digital must be destroyed, and anyone infected also with it. That this isn't a fight they can win, only survive. And then he talks to Damian. There's a pause, just a moment. He tries to say the words, that he's proud, that he believes in him, but the virus cuts him off mid-sentence. And the last person who ever wanted to hurt Bruce Wayne pulls the trigger. Alfred is left standing in silence, surrounded by the bodies of the boys he helped raise. Sons and grandsons, all gone. He doesn't scream, he doesn't cry, he just walks away, and the silence left behind in Wayne Manor is unbearable. Across Gotham, Harley Quinn decides it's finally time to break up with the Joker, only to find he's already turned. The shotgun blast that ends him is cathartic, until the birds of prey show up, feral and infected. Poison Ivy arrives just in time, saving Harley and claiming Gotham as a sanctuary. A walled garden grows from the ruins, becoming one of the few untouched places left on Earth. Elsewhere, on a camping trip, Hal Jordan succumbs to the infection and attacks his friends. Black Canary puts him down and is then chosen by his ring. A new Green Lantern rises, a single flicker of hope in the dark, but the virus doesn't slow down. Aquaman tries to rescue a cargo ship and is overwhelmed. The infection spreads to Atlantis, tainting the oceans, turning them red with infection. Mira barely escapes with her life. And in Smallville, Clark returns home to find his father infected, but it's Pa Kent, so he can't put him down. So he seals the barn and walks away. The only thing left now is to keep moving. In Metropolis, Damian Wayne receives his father's final gift, a batsuit, one Bruce believed he was worthy of. Alfred delivers it with a trembling hand and a voice too broken to hide the grief behind it. When Ray Palmer infects Captain Atom from the inside, the explosion is apocalyptic. Superman and Wonder Woman arrive too late. Washington, Metropolis, half the eastern seaboard gone in a flash of light. From the wreckage, Lex Luthor stumbles forward, broken and changed. He offers Superman a truce. The game is over, there's nothing left to win but to try to survive. So the League begins their retreat. They shut down the internet, tear down the last remaining signals. Screens have become death traps and they have no choice but to cut the world off from itself. Ivy reluctantly opens Gotham's walls for the survivors, welcoming them into the Green Sanctuary. Paradise Island also opens its shores, welcoming survivors from a world that no longer exists. What's left isn't hope, but it's something close enough. Elsewhere, Mr. Terrific throws everything he has at the virus. First science, then logic, then finally magic. He turns to John Constantine, but they find him already surrounded by the infected. Magic won't be enough this time. So their last hope is to send Booster Gold back in time and stop the virus from ever spreading. But the Time Lord Wave Rider stands in his way, refusing to allow a rewrite of time. And Constantine gives him a headbutt for his troubles, but it doesn't matter, because before Booster can make the jump, the infected arrive and the timeline becomes solid, meaning Booster's future never comes to pass and he disappears from existence. The infected Big Barda rips Mr. Terrific in half and infects Blue Beetle, who kills Wave Rider. And Constantine makes it out by the skin of his teeth when he's saved by the intervention of other magical users. There is no reset button available, not anymore. And as the losses pile up, the survivors begin building something new. In the Fortress of Solitude, they designed the Arks, great vessels designed to carry life away from a dying Earth. And of course, Lex Luthor still can't help himself from being himself. He mocks Superman for losing 2 homeworlds. But for once, it's Lois who delivers the satisfying punch to Luthor's jaw to shut him up. The Ark's construction begins, and the heroes do their best to save anyone they can while they grieve for their fallen friends. But no one is prepared for what comes next. As the Martian Manhunter returns infected and attacks, he kills Lex Luthor and infects Barry Allen. And although Manhunter is put down, the infected Flash escapes. Barry races across the globe, spreading the virus at the speed of light. But Superman intercepts him the only way he can, by flying straight through his body at full velocity. The impact tears Barry apart, and fragments of his body embed in Clark's skin. The infection has found its way into him, and Superman knows what's coming. He contacts his family to say his goodbyes, and in that final moment he tells his son John that he's proud of him, that he's seen so much of the universe, and that John is the best thing in it. Then he leaves, not just out of fear, but love, in the hopes that he can get as far away from Earth as possible in order to save those he cares about. But he doesn't make it, and Earth's greatest hope becomes its worst nightmare. Superman's infected self doesn't wait long to start destroying everything he once loved. And the heroes, faced with the impossible, scramble for a plan. Damian Wayne reveals that Bruce had contingency files on every Justice Leaguer. Well, besides Green Arrow, and Ollie is understandably pissed about that. But Bruce left Damian something else, kryptonite, and Wonder Woman takes it, combining it with magic to reforge the Sword of Athena to combine Superman's 2 greatest weaknesses. As the Arks begin launching for space, not everyone chooses to leave. Harley and Poison Ivy decide to stay behind on Earth, staying with the Green in Gotham. But it's not long before the infected find those on Paradise Island. Aquaman leads an army of undead Atlanteans, including a Kraken, into a full assault on Themyscira. But then an arrow flies. Half a mile away, through hurricane winds, Green Arrow plants a shot straight through Arthur's skull. No powers, no backup, just one perfect arrow. And as the King of the Sea drops, Ollie mutters what might be the most satisfying line in the entire book. "Fuck you, Batman." But even with that win, Paradise Island falls. The infected breach its shores, and the last Ark barely escapes as chaos consumes the Amazonian stronghold. Meanwhile, Wonder Woman, Diana Lance, and Cyborg make their final stand against Superman. The battle is vicious. Diana cuts off his arm with a kryptonite sword and drives the magic deep into his gut. But she gets too close, and that's all it takes. Superman plunges his fist through her torso, taking her out of the fight and infecting her. and the last light begins to fade. Clark looks up and sees the fleeing arcs, the last humans, the last hope Earth has, and he flies after them. But someone else is waiting. John Kent meets his father in orbit. Son against father, legacy versus corruption. Their collision is seismic, blinding light against suffocating dark, but it isn't enough. Superman is still standing, seemingly unstoppable. And then, salvation arrives in the form of the Green Lantern Corps. The Guardians of the Universe have come to quarantine Earth. No one in, no one out, but they still have to deal with the infected Kryptonian. Realizing he can't defeat them, the infected Superman shows intelligence and dives straight into the sun, and begins to drain it dry. If he can't kill everyone with his bare hands, he'll make sure there's no world left to save. A dying star, a dead solar system, an extinction level event. The Lanterns have no choice. They fall back, shield the arcs, and lead the last survivors to a new planet. A hopeful new beginning as Earth is lost. But back on the ruined surface, Cyborg has the infected Wonder Woman bound with the lasso of truth, and asks one final question. Is there a cure? She doesn't lie, as she can't. There is, and it's inside him. The realization shocks Cyborg. He didn't need to fight, he didn't need to run, they didn't have to kill their friends. If they'd known, they could have saved them all. But it's too late. Wonder Woman rips his head off and tosses his body into a pit. And just like that, the truth dies with him. There will be no salvation, no reversal, no reset, as death is forever. DCeased isn't a zombie story. Not really. It wears the genre's skin, the viral apocalypse, the fallen heroes, the blood and horror. But beneath all of that, what it's really exploring is something deeper, something more human. It's a story about grief, about loss, about what we do when the world ends and we have to keep going anyway. That's the brilliance of Tom Taylor's writing throughout DCeased. He never lets the spectacle become the point. Yes, the story is full of wild cinematic moments. Martian Manhunter ripping through the Justice League, Superman flying into the sun, Green Arrow headshotting Aquaman. But those aren't what really stay with you. What stays is why those moments happen, what they mean. Because this is a story where characters are constantly confronted with impossible choices, and they make them. Not because they'll win, but because it's the right thing to do. Batman fights to the bitter end in order to warn his friends, in order to give the Earth more time, and never gets to really say goodbye. Alfred is left with the most painful choice a father figure could ever make, and Superman does everything in his power to protect his family, but ends up becoming the very thing he tried to stop. And Cyborg discovers the truth far too late, in a moment that redefines the entire story, not with hope, but with devastation. Taylor's greatest strength has always been writing characters with real emotional weight, and DCeased might be his finest example of that. The book doesn't just kill heroes, it asks who they really are when there's nothing left to save. And what you get is raw, vulnerable humanity under the capes. But the writing alone isn't what makes it work. Trevor Hairsine's artwork hits that sweet spot between visceral horror and grounded intimacy. It's brutal when it needs to be, jagged lines, shadowed eyes, twisted teeth, but it also finds room for quiet, aching stillness. Like Alfred walking away from the corpses of the boys he raised, or Lois holding John a little too tightly when all seems lost. DCeased isn't a traditional superhero arc. There's no clever twist, no reset button, no multiverse trick waiting in the wings. This isn't a victory story, it's a brutal and painful loss, and that's why it works. Because what's left when the heroes fall isn't the power they wielded, it's the choices they made, it's legacy, it's love, it's the haunting reminder that heroism isn't about saving the world, it's about holding on to who you are when the world can't be saved. Even in the face of extinction, DCeased doesn't flinch. It shows us characters who suffer, who break, who fail, and who still try, because that's what makes them heroic. Not their invincibility, but their refusal to give in. And in the end, that's what the book offers us. Not a happy ending, not an escape, but something far rarer. A true one. Because death in this universe really was forever. There was no undoing it. The world didn't reset, the fallen didn't rise again. Even the sequels, Dead Planet and War of the Undead Gods, didn't completely undo the loss. They built upon it. They showed us what came after. These stories carried the torch forward, exploring what survival looks like in the ashes of a fallen world, how legacy reshapes itself through its legends, and how even after the end, there's still something worth protecting. Because in a world where the gods are gone and the lights go out, someone, somewhere, still chooses to carry the torch. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into DC's Not Quite a Zombie series, and happy spooky season to you. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And if you want to see me cover the DCeased sequels, let me know in the comments down below and tell me what you thought of this first original story. And remember, whether it's a single issue or a trade, there's always another page to turn. So keep reading, and I'll see you next time.